Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining me as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that sorts of good stuff. And it's Fridays, ladies and gentlemen, and as on most Fridays, I'm flying solo here. I like to give everybody else a day off on Friday. Congratulations. You've made it to the end of another week. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend planned in front of you. But before we roll into that weekend, let's do our favorite thing and talk about some movies. And we're going to dive right into our main topics of the day today. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. See, you guys come up with them by going over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you'll see a form. Fill out that form with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to our first main topic today. And our first main topic today gets sent in to us from one of our Patreon supporters, Jeff Bingham. And thank you so much, Jeff, for being a Patreon supporter. The Wall Street Journal just posted an article about how Vin Diesel, Dwayne Johnson, and Jason Statham have taken it upon themselves to dictate how many hits they take in fights in the Fast and the Furious franchise. It's all very amusing to read, but at the same time, it feels very disappointing to read stories surrounding apparent ego issues, especially considering Vin and Dwayne's feud, which I pray ends in time for Fast 10. What do you make of this? All right, thanks a lot for that. And yeah, these headlines were running around a lot yesterday. So the basic gist of it is this. The story is that in the Fast and Furious franchise, some of the bigger stars will specifically have put into the contracts what can and can't happen to them in combat scenes. Now, apparently the Wall Street Journal spoke to one of the producers of the movie, and this is what the Wall Street Journal report said. According to producers and crew members on the films, Mr. Statham, who's 51 years old, negotiated an agreement with the studios that limited how badly he can be beaten up on screen. Mr. Diesel, who's now 52 years old, had his younger sister, a producer on the films, police the number of punches he takes, and Mr. Johnson, that's The Rock, 47 years old, enlists producers, editors, and fight coordinators to help make sure he always gives as good as he gets. And that's the report coming out of that. So the basic gist of it is this. We've got movie stars who are only agreeing in movies when action scenes happen how badly they can get hit and get hurt. Now, one of my biggest complaints about the Fast and Furious franchise, and you guys know I'm a big fan of the Fast and Furious franchise, and you guys know I love me some Vin Diesel. I love Vin Diesel. But that said, one of my big critiques of the Fast and Furious franchise has been that Vin Diesel is the true, Mary Sue of movies. I hate the term Mary Sue. People throw it around so incorrectly. But when it comes to the Dominic Toretto character, it really is. That is the poster child for what a Mary Sue character is. He is the best in the world at everything. He can go in, he's a mechanic who can go into combat with the world's greatest spies and come out unscathed. And I've often argued that he could have a toothpick and be facing down 20 Russian tanks, and he'll beat the 20 Russian tanks because he's Dominic Toretto, even though all he is a mechanic. Anyway, that's always been one of my biggest things. And, he always just takes out everybody and everyone. Now, I'll say this. When you see the headline that says these guys are negotiating in their contracts how many punches they'll take, it creates an image in our minds that, The Rock is going to go into a movie and never take a hit. Jason Statham's going to go into a movie and always come out unscathed. All that kind of stuff. But the fact of the matter is, I just came out of watching Hobbs and Shaw. And while I'm not going to give any spoilers away, Jason Statham, takes some ass beatings as he's giving out his ass beatings. The Rock takes punishment as he's dishing out punishment. So when you read the headline, you would be forgiven, because it happened to me too, that you'd think, oh, these guys just blow in, beat up everybody in the bar, never take a shot, and they look like, the next coming of Bruce Lee combined with Chuck Norris. But actually, that's not practically playing out. Maybe it does a little bit with the Vin Diesel character, but whatever. It really doesn't work out. And here's the thing. I was reading a couple of articles of, different websites and their take on this. And a couple of them raised a really good point. And that point is this. without going into spoiler territory, there's a scene in the new Quentin Tarantino movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where, this one actor is constantly playing the bad guy now. And a producer says to him, if the audience just always sees you as the punching bag, if the audience always sees you as the guy who just always gets beaten up, then pretty sure, even if it's subconsciously, the audience will just start seeing you as the guy who always just gets beat up. And that affects their image. And listen, it's all about image. It is all about image. Now, I have always said, I've got a big problem with actors who sign on to movies who then try to dictate what happens in the movies. And I've said, listen, if you don't want to do what's in a movie, don't sign up for the movie. But that being said, I've got no problem with an actor going into the movie and saying, I will sign for this movie as long as we have an understanding in advance that I need this to happen. I can't come across as weak because it's part of my image. I mean, my image is everything in Hollywood. So I can get into fight scenes, I can take some hits, but I got to win these sorts of fights. I can lose these sorts of fights, whatever. I have no problem with an actor before signing up for a movie, negotiating with the producers and coming to an agreement and understanding and then signing up. That's fine. That's fine. So I think this is one of those situations where the headline reads a lot worse than it actually is in real life. Again, I refer to Hobbs and Shaw. You read the headlines, you think, oh, these guys will always come out completely unscathed and looking like Superman. When in reality, I just saw the movie and no, they take their licks. They really do take their licks. And I've got no problem with them trying to protect their image. And if they negotiate that before going into a movie, then hell, I've got no problem with it. I really don't. So I think this is probably a little bit of a much ado about nothing, to be honest. It sounds bad, I agree, but I think in practical terms, it kind of makes sense. But anyway, that's my thoughts on this. What do you guys make about this story? Do you think it sounds like really horrendous? Do you think it is bad? Or do you think, like me, that it's really much ado about nothing? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on now to our second main topic today. And our second main topic today gets sent in to us from David Riley, who writes, for Infinity War and Endgame, we got trailers with footage that doesn't appear in the films. Some they probably knew wasn't going to appear. I don't know how things work in America, but in England, when we get a game trailer that doesn't have footage from the game, that fact has to be highlighted on screen. Why is this not the case for movies? Thanks and keep up the filthy. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, David. You know what? One of the big topics we like to talk about around here on the show, because it keeps coming up because of the trailers, is, when trailers come out and then we go see the movie and scenes that were in the trailer are not in the movie. That just came up again recently with Spider-Man Far From Home, right? There are several scenes in the trailers for Spider-Man Far From Home that don't pop up and don't appear in the movie itself. So it keeps coming up, and it's understandable that it keeps coming up. I would suggest, though, the practice, because I believe it's also a rule here in North America, like when I'm seeing a video game movie and it's like an animated thing for marketing sakes, and it's not actually what the gameplay looks like, I always see a little warning come up on the screen, not actual gameplay footage. They always put that up on screen. I would suggest that there is a massive difference between video games needing to put up a warning like that and, say, movies maybe being required to give something like that. And here's why I think it's a big difference. For a video game, when you're putting up, say, animated stuff that was specifically made for the marketing and doesn't reflect at all what the actual gameplay looks like, you're in a position there of completely misleading the audience as to what their gameplay experience is going to be like. Like for instance, if you've got a game, let me just use some hyperbole here just for effect, okay? Just to make the case. Let's say you've got a video game that is like kind of like 8-bit, right? But really boxy and 8-bit, right? But when you watch the commercials, they do a good CGI animation of it, right? Just to kind of, tell the story of the game, whatever. If the commercials were allowed to let the audience think that's what the game looks like, then that is a total misleading of the potential customer as to what that game experience is going to be like. The game is nothing like that. the game footage, the actual gameplay looks and feels like this. It's a completely different experience they would be marketing. Therefore, putting in these little warnings, hey, this animated thing you're seeing here, not actual game footage, okay? It's just highlighting kind of the feel of the game or the story of the game or whatever, but this isn't actual game footage. That's important because it represents saying, this is what our game experience is like, when it's really not at all. In movies, when a clip from a movie, a shot from a movie isn't in the movie but is in the trailer, that doesn't completely represent the entire movie experience, unlike video game footage that isn't actually from the game misrepresents what the entire game experience was like. For instance, let's take this shot here. This is a shot from a trailer for Star Wars Rogue One, right? Vader with his back looking at one of those classic Star Wars star map sort of things. It's an iconic shot from the trailer, was not in the movie. Did the inclusion of this one shot give a complete misrepresented picture of what this movie was going to be and what it was going to feel like? No, didn't at all. And Vader is in the movie, right? It's a shot that apparently was going to be in the movie at some point. The trailer houses put the trailers together months and months and months and months in advance before it probably got cut out of the movie. It ended up being in the trailer, but it doesn't misrepresent the overall experience of what the movie is, unlike the video game stuff. The video game stuff can be a complete misrepresentation of what's in the movie, right? So we see stuff, even stuff like this, remember? Sticking with Spider-Man, going into Spider-Man Homecoming, there was this big shot in the Spider-Man Homecoming trailer with Spider-Man and Iron Man swinging and flying through the city together, apparently going off to save the day. That's not in the movie. That shot's not in the movie. But I think they even used this image in some posters, but it's not in the movie. But then again, we got to ask ourselves, does this image, even though it's not in the movie, completely misrepresent the entirety of what the audience's experience is going to be with this movie? No. Iron Man is a figure in the movie. Spider-Man is a figure in the movie. Iron Man does have to fly in and save the day at one point. So no, it's not in the movie, but it doesn't represent a complete misrepresentation of what the movie and the experience is. Look, we've talked about this before. It's not unusual for movie trailers to have shots that aren't ultimately going to be in the films because, again, these trailer houses get commissioned to put these trailers together ages before the movies come out, and sometimes the final edit's not done, and sometimes the final cut gets done, and some of the footage they gave the trailer houses to make the trailer out of doesn't end up being in the movie. It's really nothing more nefarious than that. Now, of course, you get a situation like Hulk in the Infinity War trailer. That was a specific misdirect, and that's true. But again, I would contend that it does not in and of itself represent a complete misrepresentation of what the feel and DNA of that movie is. On the contrary, it actually goes towards the feel of the movie. So yeah, I would see them as very different things. What the standards you got to put on the video games, which does represent the experience for the audience of the consumer with their game, as opposed to a shot or two in a trailer that doesn't end up being in the movie. Anyway, that's just the way I think. What do you guys think about that? Do you think maybe studios, it should be incumbent upon them that if a shot is in a trailer for their movie that isn't actually in the movie, they should put up a little warning in the trailer that says, this shot not in movie? Or do you really think it's not a big deal? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know what you think. All right, with that down, let's move on to the third main topic today. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us from Ernesto Morales, who writes, "Hi, John, big fan of the show. Thank you so much, Ernesto. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but Tom Hardy last night posted up a picture of Andy Serkis on his Instagram in black and white and then deleted it right away. This doesn't mean that Andy is confirmed for Venom 2, but doesn't the timing seem very consistent with the shortlist that just came out? Thank you." All right. So for those of you who aren't sure what Ernesto is talking about, the other day a report came out, I believe it was Variety, that said Andy Serkis was the guy they were looking at potentially to direct Venom 2. Shortly after that, and I mean like just hours after, the Hollywood Reporter put up a report that said, yes, Andy Serkis is one of the guys they're looking at, but they're also looking at Travis Knight, who directed Kubo and the Two Strings and Bumblebee. And they're also looking at Rupert Wyatt, who directed that one Rise of the Planet of the Apes movie. And they were also looking at those 3 guys. And those are the guys they were looking at. So we talked about that for a bit. We even made it the topic of one of our questions of the day the other day, asking the question about, which of these 3 guys do you think should be the director of Venom 2, all that kind of stuff. Well, now it's a couple of days later, and going to what they just wrote in, on Tom Hardy's Instagram page, he out of nowhere puts up this picture, which is, of course, of Andy Serkis. And the only description is that fire sign. Just fire. Like, woo, right? So he puts that up. In a vacuum, something like this means nothing, right? But we're not in a vacuum. Now, look, guys, you know me. I am not about the tinfoil hat conspiracy theories. I'm not about, John, did you see a picture of the Russo brothers drinking a glass of water? Namor lives in water. Do you think that means the Russos just confirmed that they're going to make a Namor movie? Right? We hear that kind of stuff all the time. And I'm always like, guys, shut that down. I mean, who knows? Anything's possible, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here. And I am one of those guys who's like, guys, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But even I got to admit that in the midst of these stories coming out about potential directors for whatever, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, Tom Hardy puts this up on his page, I got to admit, I'll drink the Kool-Aid a little bit. It does seem to me, and I could be wrong, this is by no means any sort of certainty at all, but it does kind of seem to me a little bit like you got to take seriously at this point that Andy Serkis may very well be the director of Venom 2, which, by the way, as I said when we talked about the story the other day, I'm all for. I'm also all for Travis Knight doing it. I'm all for Rupert Wyatt doing it. I'm all for Jon Favreau doing it. I'm all for as long as you get a good, talented director. I think Andy Serkis is a guy with a lot of talent. I like his particular style. I think it would fit well with the Venom 2, so I'm good with it. I'm totally good with it. I think at this point that we as fans, with those reports coming out in both Variety and The Hollywood Reporter, and now Tom Hardy doing this, you'd be forgiven to think, yeah, it kind of seems like we can settle this, that Andy Serkis is going to be the director for Venom 2. Now, look, you guys know I really had a good time with the first Venom. I enjoyed that film. I had a really good time with it. And I think Andy Serkis can bring something new to it as well. Now, look, does this guarantee that Andy Serkis is the director for Venom 2? No, obviously not. Obviously not. For all we know, Tom Hardy was just excited by the idea of Andy Serkis. So, and he saw the reports too, so he put up that picture and then thought to himself, oh, wait a minute. By me putting up this picture, people are going to think that that's me saying I'm confirming he's going to do it. I better delete it. Maybe that's the case. Who knows? What do you guys think? Are you putting on the tinfoil hat with me and saying, yeah, I actually think Tom Hardy posting this does kind of indicate that Andy Serkis is doing it? Or are you thinking, nah, John, way too early to call. We don't know at all. We still have no idea at all. What do you think about it? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts on that. All right. With that down, let's now move on to the fourth main topic today. And our fourth main topic today gets sent in to us from Satvik Madini, who writes, hi, everyone. It Chapter 2 box office predictions are about 110 to 150 million, which will break the highest grossing R-rated opening weekend. Do you think this will be the first R-rated movie to break $1 billion? What do you think? Thank you and have a great day. All right, thanks a lot for the question, Satvik. And yes, the early, although we got to emphasize that word, early. The early long-range tracking for It Chapter 2, remember these numbers can go up and down, is sitting at a very large span of $110 million to $150 million. All right? That's a huge $40 million window. But these are the early projections. And again, the movie's months away, right? It's a ways off still. So we've got to get closer before we actually get any realistic look at what the real projection for these numbers would be. However, it does raise some interesting questions. Because if it does come in at 110, that's still one of the biggest openings for an R-rated film ever. If it came in closer to 150, that would break the record, the all-time opening weekend record for R-rated films. Here's a look at what the record stats look like right now. As of right now, these are the biggest R-rated opening weekends of all time. At number 5, you got American Sniper at $89.2 million. At number 4, The Matrix Reloaded made $91.7 million. At number 3 is the first It movie. It came in at $123.4 million. So that was the first one, 123, one of the biggest of all time. And then the top 2 spots are both held by Deadpool films. Deadpool 2 in the number 2 spot at $125.5 million. And of course, the biggest R-rated opening of all time is Deadpool at $132.4 million. So these long-range tracking numbers we're looking at right now, where it puts it anywhere between 110, which would make it the 4th biggest R-rated opening, to 150, which would make it the biggest R-rated opening movie. I'll say this. The It Chapter 2 trailer that just came out, and I think I talked about this the other day. The It Chapter 2 trailer that just came out like a week or two ago, I honestly feel like is the best horror movie trailer, I should say, I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen a better trailer for a horror movie than the most recent It Chapter 2 trailer. You know, we talk on the show a lot about how the fact that the job of a trailer is to take your excitement level wherever it is, if it's non-existent, if it's low, if it's medium, if it's high, wherever your excitement level is, take your excitement level and bump it up a couple of notches. And I was already super excited for It Chapter 2, and that trailer, put it through the roof. Put it through the roof. It went from being one of my it went from being a movie I was really looking forward to being one of my most anticipated movies for the rest of the year. All because of that trailer. It looks fantastic. Does that automatically mean that It Chapter 2 will make more than It Chapter 1 did? No. No, it doesn't. And you don't have to go much farther than just going back over to this thing. Look, Deadpool 1 came out. Everybody loved Deadpool 1. It was fantastic. It was brilliant. Then Deadpool Chapter 2. Deadpool 2 was coming out. Its marketing was fantastic and great, and it had the second biggest R-rated opening of all time, but a little bit less than Deadpool. That's not me saying that It Chapter 2 won't open as big as It Chapter 1. I'm not saying that. The only point I'm trying to make is some people are trying to talk like it's an automatic. Because It Chapter 1 made $123 million, and because everybody liked It Chapter 1, that automatically means It Chapter 2 will make more. It very well may. I even think there's a good chance it does. All I'm saying is it's not an automatic. It's not an automatic. And this early long-range projections they have of 110 to 115 means it could come in under what it made. It could come over what Deadpool 1 made and set the new record. So it's still a lot of questions, and the bottom line is we're still too far out to really know for sure. But I wanted to make that the topic of today's question of the day for you guys. And my question of the day for you guys is simply this. It opened with $123.4 million. Will It Chapter 2 break Deadpool's R-rated opening weekend record of $132.4 million. All right. That topic and more on today's show. Blah, blah, blah. Right now, 800. I put this up just before the show started. A little over 800 of you guys have already responded. And right now it's way in the lead. 71% of you guys right now are saying that yes, It Chapter 2 will break the record, Deadpool's record of 132.4, and 29% of you right now are saying no, it won't. Now, of course, we won't know for sure until the actual opening weekend, but what do you guys think? Jump down in the comments section below, jump over to my Twitter, and hit out that forum, let your voice be heard. Okay, with that down and out of the way, let's now move on to our final main topic of the day. And our final main topic today gets sent in to us from Barry Windhauser, who writes, "Greetings, John. I know you're still a little uncertain about the new Mortal Kombat movie coming, but I'm wondering if you saw that the writer of the film is saying that not only will the movie have the iconic fatalities, but that they'll also be game accurate. This gets me pumped. Does hearing this get you more excited for the movie?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Barry. And yes, there is a new Mortal Kombat movie coming. James Wan is producing it, but don't get terribly excited by that. He's not directing it, he's producing it. Now, one of the things Barry said in the message there was that I'm still a little apprehensive about Mortal Kombat, which is true. The reason I'm a little apprehensive about Mortal Kombat can be broken down into 3 reasons. Number 1, it's a video game movie. And no matter what potential games have, every video game movie sucks. Except for maybe with the exception of the most recent Tomb Raider. That actually wasn't so bad. Wasn't great, but wasn't so bad. Anyway, so it's a video game movie. Number 2, the screenwriter has never had one of their screenplays made into a movie before. That doesn't automatically mean it'll be bad, not by any stretch of the imagination, but, you know, it's an untested and unproven screenwriter. That just makes me a little nervous. That's all. Just a little nervous. Third thing is we've got a director who's never directed a feature film before. So we not only is it a video game movie, it's a director who's never directed and a screenwriter who's never had one of their screenplays turned into a movie before. Call me crazy, call me skeptical, but I think that's enough reason to not say it's going to be a failure, but to at least say, I'm a little apprehensive about it. Isn't that fair to say? Isn't it at least fair to say I'm a little apprehensive about it, considering all those factors played in there? Yes, James Wan's producing, but he's not directing it. You got a first-time director with essentially a first-time screenwriter for a genre that has long track record of failure. Maybe it'll be great. It has a chance to be great. I'm just saying I'm a little bit skeptical about that. But anyway, what he's talking about the fatalities thing is that the screenwriter for the film was basically asked, you know, what about like in the game, the fatalities in the Mortal Kombat game are really, really key. So Greg Russo, the screenwriter for the film, he said this: game accurate, talking about fatalities. Yes, we are. We are doing game accurate fatalities in the Mortal Kombat movie. I can say for sure that the fatalities that we're going to put into the film are from the game. Now, that basically means this Mortal Kombat movie will be rated R. There's no way. If you guys have seen the Mortal Kombat fatalities, there's no way you can do those fatalities without it being rated R. I just don't see how you do it. So I think that tells us something. It's going to be rated R. Now, you asked me in the question, does the fact that the screenwriter is saying that we're going to get game accurate fatalities make me more excited for the movie? Honestly, no. No. Because, newsflash. A friend of mine used to say that all the time. Newsflash. If it's a bad movie, putting a fatality scene doesn't make the movie better. Right? If it's already a bad movie, putting in a fatality scene where he rips his head off his body and the spine comes flying out. Okay, but if it's a bad movie with a bad story and bad acting and bad dialogue and all that kind of stuff, but oh, look, he ripped his head off, it doesn't make the movie any better. Right? I will say this, though. If the movie's good, it doesn't even have to be great. If the movie's good and it's a decent story, it's fun, they give us some characters and heroes we can cheer for, some villains we can hate, and it does a decent job, then you pepper in things like game accurate fatalities. That just becomes cherry on the top. That just gives it that extra little something to enjoy even more. But is it something that in and of itself is worth getting excited about? I don't know. I don't think it is. It's not something that's going to excite me, because it's not like, you know, they make the announcement, hey, the director has stepped down and coming in and taking his place is Rupert Wyatt, for example. Okay, that's something that will get me more excited in the movie. The idea of a short detail in the film just thrown in there that doesn't improve the movie as a whole, not something that gets me excited, to be honest with you. But I'll tell you this. If I start watching Mortal Kombat and it turns out to be pretty decent, I will start looking forward to those fatalities coming in the movie, because the movie's already good and these will just be an extra little spice on it to just kick it up a notch, right? If that's the case, great. But if the movie's bad, fatalities ain't going to save the movie. So I'm kind of middle on the road of it, I guess. I guess I'm kind of a little bit in the middle of the road. What do you guys think about this news that they're saying there are going to be game accurate fatalities in the new Mortal Kombat movie? Is it something for you that makes you go, oh, that's it, now I'm excited? Is it like me where it's like, eh? Or do you think, no, just, man, don't go, you don't have to go all that violent. I don't know. What are you thinking about it? Jump down to the comment section below and leave me your thoughts. All right, guys. with all that stuff down and out of the way, we're now going to move on and start taking live questions from you guys. You guys have been firing in live questions. You know what? I'm going to turn on the AC because it is hot in the San Fernando Valley here in Los Angeles today. So forgive the sound of the air conditioner in the background. My apologies for that, but it's getting really hot. All right. With that down, let's go into the live questions you guys have been sending in. And we're going to get things started off here with Gino Hendricks, who writes, I don't like what Spielberg and Cameron did with Felipe the Sentient Dancing Microphone movie. Hashtag release the Campea cut. Love from Holland. Well, thank you so much. Someday, I'm telling you what, Gino, someday I'm going to be on the beach and I will accidentally step on something hard and look down and find a treasure chest filled with Spanish gold worth billions of dollars, and I will make that Felipe the Sentient Dancing Microphone movie, and I will hire both Steven Spielberg and James Cameron to co-direct it because I'll have billions of dollars to direct it, and it will become the greatest film of all time. Mark my words. Anyway, thanks for that, Gino, and thanks for saying hi from Holland, my friend. All right. Adam Martinez writes, saw the short teaser for Tenet that played in front of Hobbs and Shaw. I don't care. It really didn't show much. It still looks incredible. Yeah, I read the description. Now, I saw a press screening of Hobbs and Shaw, and I don't go to a lot of press screenings anymore, but I was very curious to see that one. Anyway, so they never play trailers in front of press screenings, so I haven't seen it, but I read the description of it. Hard for me to have an opinion when I haven't seen the movie. I've only read a description of it, you know, broken glass with a bullet hole in glass, and David Washington is there running around. Okay, it sounds like an announcement teaser. Probably nothing I would get terribly excited about, but I am excited for this movie. I am very excited for the movie as a whole, Adam. All right, Suthius writes, hey, Mr. C, imagine if Force Awakens box office was in the vein of an Avatar or an Endgame. Force Awakens could have been... if the Force Awakens foreign box office had been in the vein of Avatar or Endgame, Force Awakens could have been a $3 billion movie. Crazy. I mean, yeah, possibly, because, look, a lot of people keep forgetting that the number one box office film all time domestically is still actually Star Wars The Force Awakens. It's not Endgame. It's The Force Awakens. And Endgame is not the all-time foreign box office leader. Avatar is. Endgame is second in foreign box office to Avatar, and Endgame is second to The Force Awakens in domestic box office, but combined, it's number one. So it's really neat when you look at it that way. But yeah, I mean, sure, but you could say that about any movie, right? Hey, if only such and such had this huge international success. Well, yeah, I guess you could look at it that way, but it's still interesting when you think about it. All right, War Machine Rocks writes, buy one, rent one, lose one. Aquaman, It Chapter 1, and Baby Driver. Okay, buy Baby Driver. Baby Driver is the best movie in that list, in my opinion. Boy. You know, you guys, you've seen me review it. I quite enjoy Aquaman. I thought that was a nice, fun little movie, but I think I prefer It Chapter 1. So, buy Baby Driver, rent It Chapter 1, and it pains me to say it, but I guess lose Aquaman. Suthius writes, I think Kevin Durand is in the underappreciated category. Love seeing him pop up now and then. Butterfly Effect, X-Men Origins, Lost, etc. And he's 6'6", and he was actually really good in, what was that little, I think it was on Fox, horror show about the vampires? Was it called The Strain? He was one of the main characters in The Strain. By the way, I agree. I really like seeing him pop up in films. I really do. And he's a guy who most people do not recognize his name at all, but you recognize his face if you see him. And if you haven't seen him in The Strain, I suggest this, particularly The Strain Season 1. That was the best season in my opinion. All right. Enrique Mija writes, hey, big fan of the show. Thank you so much, Enrique. Wanted to know if of any of your Lion King viewings, probably meant if in, wanted to know if in any of your Lion King viewings have been at laser projected IMAX theater. If not, I highly recommend it. No. My first viewing of it, though, was in Dolby, the dual laser Dolby, and that was awesome. That was completely awesome. I loved it. But I have not seen it on IMAX at all, laser projected IMAX or otherwise. But it sounds like it'd be a really good viewing experience, and if I get the chance, I'll probably have to take advantage of that. Thanks for sharing, Enrique. I appreciate that, man. All right. War Machine writes, buy one, rent one, lose one. Captain America Winter Soldier, Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, and Shrek 2. Woo! I love Shrek 2. But Winter Soldier is a top 5, not top 10. Winter Soldier is a top 5 kind of greatest comic book movie of all time. Rogue One, I think, is underrated. I love Rogue One. You know what? Okay, so I will buy Winter Soldier, rent Rogue One, and, again, it pains me, but I'm going to lose Shrek 2. God, I don't want to lose Shrek 2, but hey, that's the option you gave me. All right. Noel Nguyen writes, I know you hate casting talk, but which X actor in X role were you initially excited for, but were ultimately disappointed in a film? Oh, too many to mention, man. I mean, lots and lots of movies come out that look great, and they have castings in it that look great, and they end up being bad. I mean, it's almost impossible to pick one out. I mean, it happens all the time. Noel actually follows it up with vice versa. Which X actor in X role were you puzzled by, but were ultimately surprised with in a film? Again, probably too many for me to try to pick from. I guess just for an example of one that I was exciting about all the castings and that turned out being bad. I'm not saying this is the example, but just one I'll pull off the top of my head was Gangster Squad with Sean Penn, Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone, Josh Brolin. That was a movie that the casting was incredible, looked incredible, and the movie sucked. So that's just one example of it, though. An example of one that I was kind of puzzled with the casting, but it turned out to be really good. Again, there's probably many of them. I'll just pull one off the top of my head. Carl Urban as Dr. McCoy, Bones, in the Star Trek movies. Because Carl Urban's the rough guy. He's the butch guy, right? And all of a sudden you put him in Star Trek and he's Dr. McCoy? Really? He's Bones? Totally worked, though. Totally worked. That's why I always say I don't care. Just as long as somebody with as long as it's somebody with talent, they can make it work. Carl Urban's super talented. He made Bones work. So that's a good example of that. All right. Thanks for the question, Noel. All right. Andres Martinez writes, planning on traveling soon. Where should I go first? Honolulu, Montreal, or Orlando, Florida? Ooh. I mean, first of all, I've never been to Honolulu. I've never been to Hawaii. So I can't speak to that. Montreal is a gorgeous city. Gorgeous city. Just filled with culture, and it's just beautiful, a magnificent city. I love Montreal. Orlando, Florida, I just went there for the first time a couple of years ago for Star Wars Celebration, and I had a great time in Orlando. So it depends on what you're traveling for. If you're looking to get some culture, I'd say go to Montreal. If you're just looking for, just a good time, I'd say Orlando. And I can't even mention Honolulu just because I've never been there myself personally. All right, Curtis Lopez writes, one of two. Was watching Endgame and watching the end credits really make you impressed of the type of cast they collected over the years? Well, I mean, yeah. It's like, 30 of the biggest stars in Hollywood ultimately over the years appear in these movies. And today everybody wants to appear in superhero movies. And I mean, that's one of the criticisms when people argue about, Avatar versus Endgame. The Avatar proponents, and they have a point. I'm just saying they have a point. Will go, yeah, well, Avatar was a true standalone movie. It didn't need a 21 film build-up with 11 years mounting up to it, and like 30 of the biggest stars in Hollywood all appearing in it at once. I mean, that's true. All that is true. That's a good point. There are other good points to counter that, but I'm just saying that's a fair point. But yeah, that thing about the who's of Hollywood celebrities that appear in the thing is really, really impressive, dude. Anyway, the second part of that is, especially when reading names like Michael Douglas, Michelle Pfeiffer, Angela Bassett, Robert Redford, Natalie Portman, and more. And don't forget Anthony Hopkins, Ben Kingsley, on and on and on and on. I mean, they've just, over the years and over 23 films, they've just amassed a huge load of talent, dude. Huge load of talent. Krypton Caged writes, hey, John, the Red Sea Diving Resort is out on Netflix, and I've seen it, and it's pretty good. Have you? It has Steve Rogers, Translucent, and the Mandarin. Yeah, it does. I think Greg Kinnear's in it, too. Anyway, I have not seen it, but I'm hearing decent things about it. But you know me, for the most part, Netflix, I've watched a lot of Netflix original films up till a while ago, and they almost all suck. So I kind of gave up on them. Now, there are exceptions. Always Be My Maybe actually turned out to be really nice. I enjoyed Always Be My Maybe. But most of the other ones is just brutally awful. So I'll probably check it out at some point, Krypton, because people like you and some others are telling me that's actually pretty good. And obviously I love Chris Evans. So I'll probably check it out at some point. I just haven't been, excited to jump and watch it because, well, it's a Netflix original and most of them suck. So it's a little hesitant on that part. But thanks for sharing that. You're amongst many others. All right, Nathan Oswald writes, #Justice for Soup Goop. Again, I got a lot of Soup Goop hashtags sent to me on social media yesterday. And I'm sure Chris did too. So yesterday, Chris, for those of you who didn't see yesterday's show, and if you didn't, why didn't you? Because it was pretty fun. But yesterday on the show, me, Chris Carr, and Aaron Cummings were talking about this story that came out about The Boys and how the only scene they deleted out of the season was a scene where Homelander, their Superman-like character, his name's Homelander, jerks off over New York City and, has an orgasm all over New York City. And Chris Carr called it, everybody's getting covered in soup goop, because they call superheroes soups in the show. Soup goop. And I pretty much lost it. And we've been getting a lot of hashtags about that ever since. So thanks for reminding me, Nathan. Jack Humphreys writes, what did you think of the bathroom scene in The Boys? Oh, loved it. It was brutal. You felt a little bad for the guy that Carl Urban was going to town on, but at the same time, he kind of deserved it. But I like the bathroom scene. JB Bonifacio writes, 1917 will be a monster come Oscar season. Happy Friday. Far too early to say that, JB. Far too early. We've seen one trailer. That's a good-looking trailer. It's a good-looking trailer, but it's far too early to start talking about it's going to be a monster come Oscar season. For all we know, it's going to be terrible. Gangster Squad was a movie that a lot of us, today everybody plays rearview mirror and everybody says, oh no, I knew Gangster Squad didn't look that good. Shut up. I was there. I heard all the online conversations. Everybody was excited about Gangster Squad. It looked amazing. It was an all-star cast, blah, 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 and it sucked. I was so excited for that movie. So I'm just going to say, JB, at this point, it's a little too early to call. It's a little too early to call, but who knows? You never know. It certainly does look good. It does look good. Ryan Lohner writes, maybe the best action scene no one ever talks about, the ambush from Clear and Present. Oh, that's a good one. Somehow you genuinely think the heroes all might die. Seriously? The Harrison Ford, Jack Ryan movies, I think they're all great. I think Patriot Games is awesome. Clear and Present Danger is awesome. Obviously, he just brings something to it. Now, the first one, Hunt for Red October, that was Alec Baldwin playing Jack Ryan. But the Harrison Ford ones are great. And that is a great scene, man. They represent a clear and present danger to the United States of America. I love it. That's a great one to bring up, Ryan. Excellent example. All right. Cameron Ross writes, hey, John, why is no one talking about the series finale of... It was a great ending for the characters and very bittersweet. I can't help you, Cameron. I have no idea what show you're talking about. I always ask you guys, please don't use abbreviations or acronyms, whatever. Just tell me the name of the show. Sorry, dude. I wish I could comment, but I just have no idea what show you're talking about. K Major writes, better portrayal. Angela Bassett as Tina Turner, Jamie Foxx as Ray, Denzel as Malcolm Epps, Chadwick Boseman as James Brown or Jackie Robinson, Will Smith, Ali. I'll tell you what is the most underrated on that list, and that's Chadwick Boseman as James Brown in Get On Up. That is the most underrated of all those performances to me. That movie, by the way, was directed by the same guy who directed The Help. And, I just love that guy. That guy's a great director. Anyway, Chadwick Boseman as James Brown is the most underrated. I wouldn't say the best. I would probably have to go, talking a lot of Oscar nominations in there. I'm actually going to go Denzel's Malcolm X. I'm going to go Denzel as Malcolm X. It's just, look, in a close second would be Will Smith as Muhammad Ali. And then a close third would be Jamie Foxx as Ray. Angela Bassett, greatest teen. But I'm going to go Denzel Washington as Malcolm X. That's some great ones in there, by the way, K-Major. Those are some fantastic ones. But yes, I know a lot of you guys have not seen Chadwick Boseman as James Brown in Get On Up. Do yourself a favor when you get a chance and watch that. If you want to really appreciate just how good of an actor Chadwick Boseman is, watch him in that, because you'll be damn impressed. Anyway, Shattergate Studios writes, have you seen Miracle Mile? Dude, if I'm not mistaken, there's like 3 or 4 movies called Miracle Mile. If you're talking about the one with Anthony, what's the name of the guy from Top Gun? He's Goose in Top Gun. Anthony Edwards? If you're talking about the one with Anthony Edwards, I haven't seen that one. There's a bunch of other smaller ones that came out after that. A couple of Miracle Mile movies that came out after that I've never seen any of them. So answer is nope, and I'm not even sure which one you're talking about, to be honest with you, because there are a couple of movies called Miracle Mile. Shattergate Studios writes, better team, X-Force and Deadpool 2 or Golden Company and Game of Thrones? X-Force. X-Force. With Brad Pitt's Invisible Boy, and oh my God, that is Shatterstar. It's a great team. Great team. One of the best scenes ever, too. Golden Company, they just met a terrible end. All right, Sid Vicious writes, I am glad that we are moving towards a world where people watch movies because of what it's about and not who is in it. Movie star system needs to die. But here's the thing, Sid Vicious. People think it's either people only go to the movies to watch it for the movie stars, or the movie stars have nothing to do with it. And neither of those two extremes are true today. You need movie stars in your movie to give, in the audience mind, credibility to a film. Right? You watch a trailer to the average movie-going audience person watches a trailer for a film and has nobody they recognize. There's a disconnect. And a lot of people just instantly write it off. However, you put some stars in there that people recognize, it gives at least in there, it doesn't guarantee they'll run out and see it, but it puts in their heads that this film has a bit of credibility, right? It's legit. This movie's legit because it's got Julia Roberts in it. This movie's legit because it's got, Margot Robbie in it. This movie's legit because it's got Jake Gyllenhaal in it, right? It's a question of, it's a question of legitimacy to an audience member. So gone are the days that just put Arnold Schwarzenegger in a movie and people will flood to the movies to watch it because of the movie star. Those days are gone. But the need for movie stars is still quite high, because you got to have that connective tissue between what's in the movie and the audience member seeing the marketing, and it just gives that little bit of legitimacy to it. And I think there's a lot of people a lot of general audience members will just instantly write off a movie if they see a trailer and there's nobody in it they recognize, almost no matter how good the trailer is. And I'm not saying that's fair, and I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's the way it is. Fair, right, or not, that's the way it is. And there'll be a lot of general audience members that they see a trailer, don't recognize anybody in it, they just disassociate. They just turn it off and they move on. Again, filling it with movie stars that they do recognize doesn't guarantee they'll go see it. Those days are gone, but it's still an important thing. It's still an important thing, and probably will be for a long time. That's just my thoughts on that. All right. Superman Steve writes, Tenet teaser trailer coming soon. Yeah, they'll probably drop soon. Again, it's one of those rare trailers that actually appeared in theater before dropping online. That never happens anymore, but it's in theaters right now in front of Hobbs and Shaw. Hopefully we'll get it online pretty soon. Superman Steve says, did you hear about, yep, did hear about that as well, Superman Steve. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Looking forward to seeing it, because I haven't seen it yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm so excited for this movie. Ryan Lohner writes, Shaw's sister is also Princess Oh, you're right! You're right, and she's great as Princess Margaret in The Crown. She's great in that. I gotta tell you, The Crown is not my kind of show. It's not the type of show that I would sit down and watch, right? But my wife, Anne, got completely hooked on it. And so she was watching it all the time. So I started watching it just because she was watching it. And I'm like, this is a really good show. Like, this is a great show. The cast is fantastic, all that kind of stuff. And you're absolutely right. I totally didn't even put those pieces together. She's Margaret in The Crown. She's great in that. Thank you for pointing that out, man. Willow Yang writes, I can't believe you'd forget an episode like Spock's brain. I'm not a hardcore I like Star Trek, but I'm not the hardest of hardcore Star Trek fans. What are some of your favorite episodes from the original series? Well, I mean, it sounds stereotypical, I know, but it's true. Trouble with Tribbles. Trouble with Tribbles might be the greatest episode of Star Trek ever. Like, ever. It's amazing. It's so good, they made Tribbles a key part. J.J. Abrams made Tribbles a key part of his second Star Trek movie, right? Trouble with Tribbles is just one of the other one that I really dug is, the name, when they find the probe that's now going to destroy everything, and they brought it on the ship and they're trying to figure out how to fix it. Anyway, that one was really good. I like the one where they encounter that alien only to go onto a ship and find it's just like a dwarf dude in the ship instead of this giant menacing figure. That was a good one. There are a bunch of good ones, but Trouble with Tribbles is my favorite one of the original series. Orange Hand writes, according to the Game of Thrones finale script, Drogon melting the Iron Throne was unintentional, and many fans are even more unhappy. Your thoughts? Who cares? Who cares whether it was intentional? Dragon melted the throne with his fire breath. Who cares if it was intentional or unintentional? It makes no difference. And I don't care. I thought the final season of Game of Thrones was spec-fucking-tacular. I thought it was exceptional. I loved it. Particularly like the first 3 episodes. I loved the first 3 in particular, but I love the show. Did I feel it was rushed? Yeah. They never should have just had it be 6 episodes. That I will never understand. You will never convince me that making the final season 6 episodes. And wasn't the second last season only 7? You will never convince me that making the final 2 seasons a combined 13 episodes or 14, you'll never convince me that was a good move. Never. So there was an element of it being rushed, but I still thought it was effing brilliant. And whether the dragon, after the fact, melts the throne purposefully or unintentionally doesn't change anything at all about my perception of the show. Neither makes it any better, neither makes it any worse. So my thoughts, I don't care. Adrian Musio writes, sorry I didn't think of this yesterday, but one of the best opening credit scenes is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. All those llamas did great. First of all, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and Monty Python as a whole and all the movies, do some obviously really wacky, twisted stuff, which is great. We had this big debate yesterday about whether movies should have a comeback of opening credit scenes or just continue to let opening credits die. I think we should just get rid of opening credits. I think they're pointless. Now, somebody will then point out to me, like on the companion video from yesterday, somebody would point out, but John, the opening credits for Deadpool. And I agree. The opening credits for Deadpool might be the greatest opening credits in the history of movies to me. But it's the rare exception. For every Deadpool with really cool opening credits, there's 30 other films that just have time-wasting opening credits that are pointless. You know what I mean? So, yeah, there are some great opening credit scenes, and in history there have been, but honestly, I see no need for opening credits. Just get rid of them. Just get rid of them. And, we did do a poll on that yesterday, and it was a much closer poll than I anticipated. The poll yesterday was, do you guys think they should yes have opening credits or no? And I believe no, get rid of them. But yesterday, you guys, where are we at here? I hit the wrong button. You guys agreed with me, but not by much. 56% of you guys yesterday said no, leave out opening credits, and 44% of you guys said yes, and that's over 2,000 votes, said yes, keep them in. So while the no's win, I honestly thought it would be a bigger margin. I really did. I thought it would be a much bigger margin. I was surprised how many of you guys actually liked the idea of keeping opening credits for all movies. I was surprised. I'm glad more of you agree with me, but I was surprised how many of you didn't. So that's actually pretty cool. Anyway, Adrian Musio writes, have a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much, Adrian, and may you have a fantastic weekend as well. Let's see here. Alex Pitt writes, If the upcoming Witcher TV series is as good as we hope, does that count as a successful video game adaptation since it's based mainly on the books? You know, that's a great discussion. My thoughts on it right now are no. It doesn't count as a video game adaptation. You know, as a lot of people... Now, I've often referred to it as being based on the video games, but I've had a lot of you guys correct me, pointing out that they said this series is actually based on the books of The Witcher. And that being the case... See, you guys think I don't listen when you talk to me. I do. I listen when you guys talk to me. All right. And so that being the case, I would actually say no. It would not, I would personally not count it as a successful video game adaptation because it's not being adapted from the video game. It's being adapted from the books. And if that's the case, that's the way I got to kind of lean. I would have said differently a month ago, but as many of you guys pointed out, it is based on the books. So no, I would not count it as a video game adaptation. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's where I'm at right now. Good question, Alex. All right. Let's see. Murray Reich writes, saw Hobbs and Shaw, and I got to say it's bonkers. It is pretty bonkers. The action was great. The bantering between the characters was hilarious. That's all what I wanted. Love the surprise cameos, and the 3 end credits were great. Yeah, me too. Again, I would actually say, particularly in the case of the one guy, and you know which guy I'm talking about, I would actually argue it's not a cameo. I mean, the one guy is literally in 4 scenes. A cameo is a quick surprise appearance. They appear and then they're gone. That's a cameo. But the one guy, for those of you who've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. He literally was in no less than 4 scenes. And as I would actually say that guy is a minor character in the film, not a cameo. It's all semantics. It doesn't really matter. But, and you know, according to The Rock, by the way, Murray, The Rock said the post-credit scene, which includes this one guy, gives you a glimpse of the new team moving forward. So I think that guy is joining the team. And I think that guy is going to be a bigger character in the next Hobbs and Shaw if this Hobbs and Shaw makes enough money to warrant a sequel. So yeah, I had a good time. Look, the movie is dumb. They truly should have made a better story around it and plotted it out a little bit better, because then it's not just a dumb fun movie, but it's truly a great movie. Hobbs and Shaw, listen, I give it a thumbs up. I came out having enjoyed myself, and that's all you can ask for a movie. Did you walk out? Did you enjoy yourself? I enjoyed myself. It is fun. The action's great. The banter is wonderful. It is really stupid. They could have done a better job. But, hey, it is what it is. And I thought those cameos were again, they're not even cameos. I thought those appearances were some of the highlights of the film. I totally do. All right. Murray then follows up with, so I went to check the movie out at an AMC theater, and the IMAX room had leather plush rockers. I was very disappointed. It's basically a leather seat that rocks a little. Nothing more. Recliners rule. Oh, I agree. Now, don't get me wrong. I've been in theaters that had those leather rockers. I don't mind them. I don't mind rockers. They're fine. Actually, I think I like them better than the standard movie theater seat. But nothing beats recliners. I've become so spoiled for recliners in these movies. Absolutely so spoiled for recliners in these movies. I gotta have them now. I get very entitled when I'm in a movie theater now and it's just a regular movie seat and I'm like, me, I deserve better. You know, I get very entitled like a whiny little baby because I've been spoiled for these leather recliners. But yeah, I've never seen the recliners in an IMAX theater. I've never seen recliners in an IMAX theater, which is interesting. Anyway, Slim Trav writes, thoughts on Birds of Prey? There's no hype for it. Well, I mean, look, I've always said, much like I've never been interested in a Hawkeye film, not really interested in a Black Widow film. I'm not interested in a Harley Quinn film, particularly separated from the Joker. I just want to see Harley Quinn with the Joker. Now, I'm not saying Harley Quinn can't work without the Joker. Just like I said, Venom can work without Spider-Man, and it did. But I got to admit, to me, they're a bit of different situations, and my favorite part about Harley Quinn is the relationship with the Joker. And I would probably even be more interested in the film if it was just focused on Harley Quinn and not this Birds of Prey, the fabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. It's like, really? What? I'm and that first little teaser didn't do anything for me, but I don't think it was really meant to, I'm not down. But keep in mind, it is still 6 months away. It's still a full 6 months away. So they haven't even begun to try to get the hype going for it yet. They haven't even started to get the hype going for it yet. So I'm not terribly interested in it. I'll see it. But let's not read too much into the fact that there's not a lot of hype, because they haven't even started the hype yet. So let's see what happens as we get closer. All right, Richard Karate writes, with Black Widow getting her own movie and some side heroes getting Disney Plus shows, my favorite Marvel character is War Machine. So do you think we could get a War Machine movie or Disney Plus series? Oh, we're not getting a War Machine movie. Of that I'm positive. We're not getting a War Machine movie. A Disney Plus? Possibly. But it's hard to say. I really like the War Machine character. With both actors. You know, I love it with both of them that have played the role, especially Don Cheadle. Can you build a movie or a series around that? I don't know. But listen, now that they've got Disney Plus and they've got their own avenue to distribute this thing, I would definitely say it could. If you're asking, could a War Machine movie or Disney Plus series happen? Yeah, you got to say it could. Likely? I don't think it's likely, but possible, yes. More possible for a Disney Plus series than a theatrically launched film. I don't see them doing a standalone War Machine movie. I think if they were ever going to do a standalone War Machine movie, it would have happened by now. And since it hasn't happened yet, and they've got all these new characters that they want to start bringing in and introducing, I think that makes it look pretty bleak. Disney Plus thing might still be on the table, though. Not likely, but I think it might still be on the table. We'll have to wait and see. All right, Grandmaster writes, you are wrong saying Spielberg has done every movie genre. Well, I mean, that was... Obviously, he hasn't done every movie genre. He hasn't done 17th century, not everything, but for the most part, he's done it all. Anyway, you were wrong saying Spielberg has done every movie genre. There's one left, a musical. This may be the motivation for him doing West Side Story. Maybe. You're right. I don't think he's done a musical before. Yeah, I'm going on a limb and say, yeah, he probably hasn't done a musical before. That being said, he's basically done it all, though. He's done period piece things. He's done comedy. He's done action. He's done sci-fi. He's done drama. He's done true story, fiction. I mean, he's just done it all. Does that mean he's literally done everything? No, that's not possible. But you're right. Now he's adding a musical to his resume with West Side Story. There's nothing Steven Spielberg cannot do. That is why he is the greatest filmmaker of all time. There's nothing he can't do and do it world class. That's why he's the best, in my opinion. In my opinion, at any rate, Grandmaster. All right, good point. All right, the Bearded One writes, hello, John. I don't have an AMC theater close by where I live, but the Marcus Theater that is close by is wonderful. Have a great day. And yeah, listen, I've actually heard some good things about Marcus Theaters. I've never been to one myself, but I've constantly heard good things about it. And look, the bottom line is, as long as you live close to a good theater, that's all that matters. Doesn't matter if it's AMC, Regal, Marcus, Cinemark, whatever. Landmark, Tutti Frutti, doesn't matter. As long as you got a good movie theater by you, that's all that matters. I'd be curious to find out, does Marcus have its own movie membership kind of idea? Like Regal has now with Regal Unlimited, AMC with AMC, what's it called? What's the AMC? Why am I freezing on the name of the A-List? Is that what it is? Yeah, AMC A-List. Do they have their own thing like that? I'd be curious. Hopefully, if they don't, hopefully they get one soon. Bearded One also writes, NFL preseason has begun. I miss football a lot. I do, but I'll tell you what, honestly, as much as I love watching football, I don't watch preseason games. There's no meaning to them. So no one's trying their hardest. Nobody wants to get hurt. The games don't mean anything. I literally never watch preseason games. I'm excited. What does get me excited is that it means the regular season is getting closer. I'm very excited. Ron G writes, just binged all the boys. Wow. Hashtag save. Yeah, the dolphin scene was great. I've heard some people complaining about the dolphin scene. I personally thought the dolphin scene was great. I thought the dolphin scene was great, but hey, that's just me, whatever. And I also binged it, Ron. I loved it. TNS93 writes, is there any way to save the show Swamp Thing? No. No way to save that show, unfortunately. Again, I don't know why I understand why they cut the first season short. I do. With the tax credit thing, that was a big financial blow. What I don't understand is why they just flat out canceled the show, though. Like, you had like 8 months to a year to figure out other options for financing. Why not take those 8 months to see if you can find a solution? And if you can't, then cancel it. Right? I'll never understand the logic behind announcing that a show has been canceled after one episode. I'll never understand that. And if it was, as it appears to be, because of financial reasons, then why cancel it now? Why not take the 8 months to a year that you've got to see if you can come up with other finances? And if you can't, then you announce that this show's been canceled. I will never understand their logic. I think this is one of the big blunders, PR blunders ever. Why announce the cancellation of a show after one episode when you didn't need to cancel it or announce its cancellation at that point? You had a lot of time to try to figure out another option. And even if you fail to find another option, then you cancel. It's just one of the biggest blunders I've ever seen. I just don't understand it. But no, I don't really see there being any way saving the show at this point. Cinema Reviews writes, would you rather see a Star Wars mockumentary, i.e. a fictional documentary about an event in the Star Wars universe, or a Star Wars found footage film? I'm so over found footage. So I will go with the mockumentary. Maybe a fake documentary on the construction of the first Death Star, or something along those lines, or a fake mockumentary of, reforming the Republic after the fall of the Empire. That could all be fun, because, I'm big into these mockumentary things. The Office, Spinal Tap, Parks and Rec. You do something like that, that could be kind of fun, but I'm so over found footage. Colby Harris writes, thoughts on Black Panther 2 villain being Namor? He's not. I know there's a report going around. First of all, Kevin Feige, I don't even think he knows who the villain is. He said that Ryan Coogler has just started writing it. He said Ryan Coogler has just started writing the damn thing. So does that mean it's impossible that Namor is going to be the villain in Black Panther? No, it's not impossible. But there is one source with no backing that's come out. There's one news site saying, we've found out that Namor's going to be it. I don't buy it. Now, some of you might be saying, but John, there's a poster. That was a fan-made poster. Ryan Coogler hasn't even written the script yet. According to Feige, he's just started writing the script. So I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. Doesn't mean it's impossible. I'm just saying right now I don't buy it. Enigma Sword writes, bring on the soup goop. More with the soup goop, everybody. More with the soup goop. Calvin Blackdeer writes, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain. One of the great lines from Dark Knight. Harvey Dent saying that to Bruce. It's a great line that has been repeated to describe other films and other scenarios. It's just one of the great lines ever. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Amazing. That might be something that we see happening with Scarlet Witch. Probably not, but it'd be interesting to see if that's what they're doing. All right, Cinema Reviews writes, one of Hobbs's brothers is played by John Chu. Awesome seeing him because he played my favorite Power Ranger, Anubis Doggy Kruger, / the SPD Shadow Ranger. Well, I am not the world's biggest expert on Power Rangers, so I don't know. And the only one of Hobbs's brothers that I recognize was obviously Roman Reigns, who is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's cousin in real life. But I didn't recognize any of the rest of them. It's cool, though, that you were able to pick out a couple of them, though. I'll say this, though. I love the guy, and maybe this is the same guy, maybe it's not. I love the guy who played The Rock's big brother. The guy who played The Rock's big brother, loved that guy in this movie. Really, really did. He's not a huge part of the film, but I really did like him in this movie. All right. Tristan Thorpe writes, what's your favorite opening for a comic book movie? For me, it's Into the Spider-Verse. It's simple, easy, no questions asked, period, end sentence. The first X-Men movie is the greatest opening for a comic book movie ever. One of the great openings for any film ever. A young Eric with his family in the German concentration camp as a kid is torn away from his family and his mutant powers manifest. I just remember, I remember watching that for the first time and the world going, oh my God, you can do this sort of thing in a comic book movie? What? They started a comic book movie. That's why I keep saying today, if you love if you love the MCU and you love your DCU movies and you love all this stuff, you better get down nightly on your hands and knees and pray to whatever movie gods you worship and thank them for that first X-Men film. Because that's the film that opened the doors. That's the film that producers keep saying, open the eyes of Hollywood studios going, oh, we can do these kinds of comic book movies. We can do comic book movies that look like this and have this type of material and this type of content in them. You better be thanking whatever movie gods you worship for that movie every single freaking night. It cannot be overstated. Can't be overstated. But that, to me, Tristan, easily is the greatest opening of any comic book movie ever. Tristan then follows up with, so Swamp Thing is now done. Overall, I thought it was good, and I would have cared about the post-credit scene had they not canceled the show. Okay, look, I haven't watched Swamp Thing. I was interested in Swamp Thing until they canceled it after episode 1. So I'm like, oh, so clearly you have no love for your own show. Why should I show it any love? And I never watched it. I've heard it's pretty good. And at some point, I probably will get around to watching it. I do have the DC streaming service. So at some point, I'll probably do that. But yeah, man, I just never got around to watching it because they killed my enthusiasm for it by canceling it after one episode. I'm like, oh, well, why would I get on board and start watching it? And why have a post-credit scene if you've already publicly canceled the show? What's the point of a post-credit scene? That's interesting. All right, Jared Oberfeld writes, there's this great video article, Good Bad Flicks, called WTF Happened to PG-13. It explains why films with that rating can or cannot work. Interesting. I'll keep an eye open. I don't generally care about those things, but I'll keep an eye open for that. Tristan Thorpe writes, for anyone that needs a comic recommendation, check out Darren Cook's Catwoman Selina's Big Score. You know what? I've never read that, but I've heard other people talk about it. You won't be disappointed. That's, you know what? Because I've had Rob has mentioned that one to one. My buddy Rick has mentioned that one to me. I think I gotta check this one out because I've heard from several people that's pretty good. I might, when I'm done the show, I might have to go fire up my Comixology app and download that because I'm hearing good things about it. Never read it myself, but I'm hearing good things about it. Thanks for sharing, Tristan. All right, Jared Oberfeld writes, I think if R makes Terminator 6 good, let it be. See, here's my thought. R never makes a movie good. Let's take a bad movie. What's a recent bad movie? Light Between Oceans, the Michael Fassbender movie, right? That was out a couple years ago. Terrible movie. Terrible movie. Showing more tits wouldn't make the movie better. Having him drop the F-bomb 8 more times doesn't make the movie better. R, nor the lack of, makes a movie any better or worse. There are some movies that it fits with their movie better, but R for the most part doesn't take a bad movie and make it good. If you can't have good story, good dialogue, good narrative flow, and all that kind of stuff without R, then I really don't think you can make a good movie with R. Again, you take a movie like Deadpool, where that just fits the character better. I get it. You take it, that fits better. But Terminator 6 is either going to be good or bad. If it doesn't need to be R, then don't make it R. If in the process of the film, it really does lend itself to being R, then lend itself to being R. But I've always been a movie fan that has never believed that R or the lack thereof makes or breaks a movie. Take that one Die Hard movie. I think it was Die Hard 4, Die Hard 5. I can't remember the one. I think Timothy Olyphant was the bad guy in it. That was a PG-13 Die Hard movie. That's not what made it a bad movie. What made it a bad movie was a ridiculous plot, stupid storytelling, characters we didn't care about. That's what made it a bad movie. Again, there are exceptions. I'm not saying this is a blanket statement that covers everything, not at all. But I'm saying in general, I don't know if R makes a difference. I could be, who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Chris Warden writes, John, The Boys is fantastic. I agree. I loved it. Elizabeth Shue is great. Loved her in that. And Carl Urban is again proving he's one of the best character actors working today. From Xena to Star Trek and Judge Dredd, that man can do it all. He can. And really, to me, the role that really proves that is Star Trek. Because in that, he plays a character unlike any character we've seen him play before. You know, we've seen him in The Lord of the Rings. I think he plays Éomer is the name of his character there, one of the Horsemen of Rohan, commander of the Horsemen of Rohan, to something like more edgy and brutal in The Boys, the same kind of character in Thor Ragnarok, that kind of stuff. But then he's Dr. McCoy? The more fragile one? What? Carl Urban playing that role? And he pulled it off. If anything really proves your point, Chris, I think it's that one. So good observation. I agree with you. All right. P Cheek 95 writes, John, you were right about Hereditary cars. I keep telling people, if you're about to watch Hereditary, I'm not going to spoil anything for you. All I'm going to say is car scene. All right? Just car scene. Trust me, car scene. And I've had a number of people writing me since gone, oh my God, the car scene, right? I mean, it's a good movie overall. Don't get me wrong, but it's the car scene. Oh my God. Jared Graff writes, hey, John, I sent a super chat a few days ago regarding Rambo and favorite moments. I said mine was UHF. I remember that. But for serious response, I would say that the speech at the end of the first one is my favorite Rambo moment. Who are you to... Look, that is the best Rambo movie, in my opinion. First Blood, the great Brian Dennehy was in that as the cop. The First Blood, the very first Rambo movie, to me is still the best movie. It's the most well-rounded movie. It's still the most thoughtful movie out of all of them. And the Rambo franchise became kind of something different after that, which is fine. It's still great fun, but that first one is incredible. I still think for me, though, my favorite movie or moment in the Rambo movies is still that we didn't bring any guns. Then you ain't changing nothing. I mean, there's something that just screams about the darkness that the character is in, the hopelessness, his view of mankind. That there's so much I think is communicated in that one moment that is still to me my favorite moment, despite the fact that I think that movie you're pointing out, First Blood, is still the best one of the franchise. That's my opinion. All right, Sid Vicious writes, Sam Mendes is copying Nolan's style in the past decade. Oh, I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with that in the least. In the last decade, he's on record saying that Dark Knight inspired Skyfall. No, it was one of his influences. It was one of his influences. And 1917 looks like Dunkirk. No person. Oh, Sid, honestly, buddy, my brother. I say this in fellow film fan brotherly love. You are way overanalyzing that, like way too much. Because guess what? There's about 20 movies that I could say Dunkirk looks like. That doesn't mean that Christopher Nolan is copying anything else or going the way of anything else on that. Not at all. Sam Mendes has always had his style. And Skyfall is very much, they're two very different movies, but when you look at a movie like American Beauty, Skyfall, the tone of that and the way he tells a story, that's him. That's him. That wasn't Christopher Nolan. That was him. When you look at Road to Perdition, that style that he did like long before Christopher Nolan, the Road Perdition that Sam Mendes did totally plays into that. I 1,000% disagree. 1,000% disagree with you. What was it called? Revolutionary Road. Anyway, that shows that his style is not some new style he just came up with for Skyfall and 1917. It's like, oh, 1917 is a war movie. Dunkirk was a war movie. You haven't even seen the movie yet. Come on, brother. And I'm jabbing at you here in fellow film fan brotherly love here, okay? Totally in film fandom brotherly love. But I'm jabbing at you here because, come on, man, you haven't even seen the fucking movie yet. You haven't even seen the movie, and you're sitting here accusing Sam Mendes of copying Christopher Nolan on a movie you haven't even seen yet, when Christopher Nolan movie Dunkirk, based on its trailer, looks like 100 other movies that have been made based on the war in the past. Not to mention, if you look at Sam Mendes' history of filmmaking, and you really look at the DNA that's in those films, and the underlying tone and how he handles his characters and how he handles his story, he is being consistent with his older films. You know, Road to Perdition, American Beauty, like these Oscar kind of caliber sorts of films, I think it's completely consistent. I reject, my brother, I reject, my friend, this notion that Sam Mendes is copying thing. Dude, you're coming out and saying Sam Mendes has no personal dignity based on a movie you haven't even seen yet. Come on, man. Come on, brother. We can't do that. That's nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. So now, who knows? Maybe we go and see 1917 and forget the fact that it's also a war movie. Thousands of war movies, all right? But maybe we do see 1917 and it's beat for beat just like Dunkirk. I highly doubt it, but who knows? Maybe. But at this point, to start saying Sam Mendes has no personal dignity because you saw a trailer for a film that, by the way, happens in a completely different war. And by the way, it looks like his film is actually character-centric. Dunkirk is not character-centric. It's one of the things I liked about Dunkirk. Dunkirk told a story where the actual context was the centerpiece of the movie. It doesn't really follow any particular character. Whereas 1917 looks completely the opposite from that. It looks like this is a very character-centric film. It's going to be following these guys. And the whole thing lays out what their mission is and what these guys, that's very different from Dunkirk. So I got, again, jabbing at you in brotherly fellow film fan love here, dude. But I got to disagree with you, brother. I got to completely disagree with you. All right. Jared Graff writes, we already got to that one. Okay. Murray Reich writes, at Jacob Oberfield, can't say the same for Terminator Rise of the Machines because that was R and it sucked. Oh, going back to R things. Yeah, like making something R does not make it better automatically. And that's kind of the point, and I think you illustrate that great. There's a lot of R-rated films that suck. Terminator, Rise of the Machines, or also, what was the other Terminator movie that was terrible? Oh, they're all terrible, other than the first two. All right, Jeremy Sneed writes, had a bit of a jump. All right, Jeremy Sneed writes, the Red Sea Diving Resort, starring Chris Evans, Ben Kingsley, Greg Kinnear, Michael K. Williams, international agents, and brave Ethiopians use a deserted retreat in Sudan, have an Argo vibe. Why not promote that? Because my job is not to promote movies. That's not my job. My job is not to promote Netflix. My job is not to promote any movies. I talk about the things that interest me. Netflix movies suck. There are exceptions. And maybe this is one of those exceptions. I'm hearing from a number of you that you've watched it and you're enjoying it. Great. So I'm not going to say a bad thing about it. I'm not going to say anything about it till I see it. You know, we did talk about the trailer when it dropped. I said, and I said that exact same thing. I said, it looks like it's kind of got an Argo vibe to it. It's got an Argo vibe to it a little bit. And it does. At least in the trailer. Whether the movie does or not, I'm not sure. But I haven't seen the movie yet. I don't feel a lot of incentive to see the movie because, generally speaking, 9 times out of 10, Netflix original films suck. There have been a couple of exceptions, but few and far between. Maybe this is that exception. I'm hearing from a number of you that are enjoying the film, so maybe it is an exception. Hopefully The Irishman is going to be one of the exceptions as well. But just be clear, Jeremy, my job is not to promote a movie. I'm not here to promote anything. I'm here to talk about what I like. I'm here to talk about what I love. I'm here to talk about the things that I find interesting. And when the Red Sea Diving Resort trailer came out, we talked about it, and then we moved on, and I haven't seen it, so why would I talk about it more? You know? When I get around to watching it, and if I get around to watching it, I'll probably comment on it, but in the meantime, it's not my responsibility or my job to promote anything. My job is to talk about the things that interest me, positively or negatively. And Red Sea Diving Resort just isn't high on my list right now. But again, it's rising on my list because I'm hearing from more of you guys that actually like it, and that's cool. So at some point, maybe I will sit down and watch it. But it's a Netflix original, and usually those disappoint me, and I find to be a waste of my time. Usually. Not always. Usually. But because of, you guys, it is rising on my list of priorities, so I'll probably check it out at some point. But just be clear. Why not promote it? Because my job isn't to promote movies I haven't watched. If something looks exciting to me, I'll talk about it. If it doesn't look exciting to me, I won't talk about it. That's just me. Anyway, Barth Revan writes, any progress on acquiring a new studio? No, I've put that on the back burner for that's going to be on the back burner for a while. I was looking into it, but honest to God, to find just the bare minimum of what I would want if I was to get an outside studio. Because right now I do things in a room in my place. You know, I converted this room in my place to being a studio for me to shoot in, and it meets all my needs. I get to have Robert in here and Aaron in here. I can have multiple people in here, and it's doing the job. Now, I wouldn't mind a little bit of a bigger space to make a studio out of. I totally would, but where I live, the minimum I would have to spend is $4,000 to $5,000 a month just on the space. Minimum. It's expensive here. And I'm not even talking about a big space. I'm talking about like 800 square feet. 800 square feet. I'm looking at having to spend, if I don't want it to be in a really bad neighborhood somewhere in Los Angeles, I'm looking at really having to spend, maybe I could scrimp by with $3,500, but basically $4,000 to $5,000 minimum, and I just can't afford it. So I've decided to put that on the back burner for now. Robert Perez writes, happy birthday, Ray. Hope you had a good one yesterday. Again, yesterday was Ray's birthday. That's my brother-in-law who does a lot of the graphics for the show. And, you know, just another one, you know, he puts these things together for me. He always does a great job with all the fun thumbnails. And thank you to everybody who sent him birthday wishes yesterday. I know he appreciated it. Gino Hendricks writes, your thoughts on Crazy Stupid Love? I really like Crazy Stupid Love. Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone, Steve Carell, Marissa Tomei. It's wonderful. It's got the ending is a little weak. But I found it to be a thoroughly enjoyable movie. I really enjoy that one, and we don't get enough movies like that. It's a deep romantic comedy. That I enjoyed very, very much, Gino. Let's see here. Suthius writes, where are we at? Personally, I don't care much about who's in what. I care more about the genre, the concept, and the content of the movie. That's what draws me the most. Oh, you know, and I'm the same way, Suthius. You and me both. But again, for the vast majority of the general movie-going audience, they see a trailer with nobody they recognize, they kind of turn it off. They throw a switch in their head. If they at least see people they recognize in it, it gives it a legitimacy to them as an audience member. But yeah, I agree with, I'm more like you because I've been doing this so long that I'm looking more for the concept, the basic premise of the movie. That's the stuff I look for more, which is why I complain a lot when a trailer comes out that doesn't tell me anything about the premise of a movie. Like, I have no idea what that movie's about. I can't get excited about it. At least let me know what the movie's about. Just tell me in just the most basic terms. Your trailer's got to tell me what the movie's about. And a lot of times they don't, and that's why I complain. Scotty Jones 48 writes, Tenet's budget is $224 million. Wow. I heard 200 million. I don't know if 224 is legit. Maybe it is, but I heard it was real damn expensive. Actually, I heard more like 170 something. Maybe it was 200. I just remember it was expensive. I don't know what the actual final number is. I don't know if 224 is accurate, though. Michael Hoover writes, hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much, Michael. Curious to know your thoughts on the original Avatar: The Last Airbender TV show. It's easily one of my top 5. I've never watched it. We actually talked about that yesterday. You know, Chris Carr, who was on the show, she knows everything. I've never met anybody that knows more about Avatar than she does. But I've never watched it. I'm not really big in anime, and then, you know, she says there's an argument about whether it's anime because it's American made, or was that, I can't remember. Anyway, never watched it, so I have no thoughts on it myself, unfortunately. Interested to see what this Netflix thing is, though. They're coming with a new live-action series, so we'll see how that kind of turns out. Suthius writes, I seriously think the studio listening to quote-unquote fans about changing Sonic's look for the movie was really unnecessary. When do you draw the line on listening? I don't know. I also thought it was completely unnecessary. Because here's the thing. First of all, just from my personal point of view, I saw the Sonic design, and it looked like Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog is going to look ridiculous no matter what they do. You do know that, right? Like, no matter what design they come up with, it's going to look ridiculous because it's a ridiculous character trying to do in real world done CGI. It's going to look ridiculous. It's just going to look ridiculous. Now, maybe the redesign will look a little bit better. Fine. But here's the bottom line. The redesign of the character is not going to make this movie 1 inch better. If this is a bad movie, it's still going to be a bad movie even with the redesigned character. So, I think it was unnecessary. Do I think it's something you should be willing to fall on your sword for? No, but we talked about that at length, Suthius, when the issue came up. I thought it was kind of silly for them to cave and redesign the character, but at the same time, redesigning the character isn't that big of a deal. It's actually a fairly easy thing for them to do, because all they got to do is then take that redesigned character and render that into all the rigging they already did with their character. It's not they don't have to reanimate it. They don't have to do all the animation again. They don't have to do any of that. All they got to do is replace the skin, basically. So it's really not that big of a deal. So on the one hand, I think it's unnecessary, but on the other hand, it wasn't that big of a thing to do to change it. So why not? So yeah, I'm kind of in the middle about it. Alex Alexander writes, better actor, Charlie Cox or Stephen Amell? Charlie Cox, but Stephen Amell I think is good and has just always just kept getting better and better and better. I've got a lot of respect for Stephen Amell. I'm a fan of Stephen Amell. I like him. I think he's a really good actor. But Charlie Cox is a real legit actor too. So it's casting no shade on Stephen Amell to say that I think Charlie Cox is the better actor right now, because I still think Stephen is really good. I still think Stephen is really good. But I would have to lean towards Charlie Cox on that. Santez Henderson writes, what will it take for a new Superman film to be made for Warner Brothers to want to do it? I mean, there's really nothing else I can say. That's what it will take. It will take Warner Brothers and Walter Hamada to decide it's time for a new Superman. That's it. Nothing else is going to do it. And since only they know the reasons, only Walter Hamada knows why they're not doing another Superman right now, it's impossible for me to address how to overcome his hesitations when I don't know what his specific hesitations are right now. So it's just going to take Walter Hamada to say it's time for a new Superman. That's what's going to take. Max Sutton writes, could Avatar re-release again and take back number 1? Oh, it will. I have no doubt. Disney will re-release Avatar, so it becomes the number 1 film all time again, so that when it comes time for Avatar 2, they can say, come back to the world that is the number 1 all-time box office movie of all time. Come back to Avatar, you know? They're going to use that. Never underestimate how important marketing hooks are for studios. They're super important. I have I have no insider information. Okay, this is just me as a fan speculating. But just as a speculating fan, I have no doubt that at some point, sooner rather than later, Disney's going to re-release Avatar. And they're going to make it the number 1 film in the world again, so they can use that for the promotion of Avatar 2. I have very little doubt about that. S. Beam writes, heard Doctor Who to be streamed exclusively on HBO Max. Really? Isn't that a BBC thing? I don't know anything about Doctor Who. I don't follow Doctor Who, so I don't know, but that sounds odd. Gabriel Reed writes, Kate Blanchett in talks to co-star with Bradley Cooper in Nightmare Alley, which Guillermo del Toro is set to direct. That's exciting. I love Kate. Oh, Kate Blanchett, look, if you take out the street monster, you take out Meryl Streep, I have a hard time imagining anybody who's a better actress on the planet right now than Kate Blanchett. I think, it's the street monster, period, end of sentence. And then after Meryl Streep, it's probably Kate Blanchett. Now, you've got some other people making a play for that title. Emma Stone is turning into a powerhouse. Lupita Nyong'o is a powerhouse. There are a number of other names out there that can be, but honestly, for me, it's the street monster, which everybody will acknowledge. And then after that, I think it's Kate Blanchett. So, yeah, I'm with you. And starring with Bradley Cooper in a Guillermo del Toro film, that sounds exciting. Obviously, it sounds exciting. It's something for all of us to look forward to. Doesn't mean it's going to be good, but we're hoping with our fingers crossed. All right. Christian Borges writes, John, have you closed off your feelings so you don't get crippled by the moral ambiguity of your violent actions? Oh, what's that from? What? No, wait. Closing off my feelings so I get the ambiguity of my violent act. Shh. What's that from? I can see it. I can even see the character in my head saying it. this is killing me. I can see it in my head. Sorry, I would normally just move on, but this is killing me. Oh, crap. Guys, help me out here. Help me out here in the live chat because this is going to kill me until... Crippled by the moral ambiguity. Oh, Spider-Man! Sorry, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It's Spider-Man Noir saying it. That's who said. Okay, I finally got that. And now you guys start firing in Spider-Verse. Spider-Ham. No, it wasn't Spider-Ham. It was Spider-Man Noir. Spider-Man says, "Can you float through the air when you smell a delicious pie?" Anyway, can you close off your feelings so you don't get crippled with the moral ambiguity of your violent act? That was Spider-Man Noir that said that. It was killing me. I knew that one. Anyway, Jason Espinosa writes, saw H and S. Gotta say, screw physics. It's overrated. I don't know what H and S is. Buck Hardy 4 writes, oh my God, more blows hit Bond 25. Bond classic Grace Jones quits role due to discovering it was a cameo. And in the past week, 2 peeping Toms have struck the set, causing police to come and put filming on hold. The whole Grace Jones thing was irrelevant. I'm like, you didn't look at a script? Like, they invited you to come and be in the movie, but you didn't look at the script. You didn't know that it was a big role or a small role. I don't know. There's something really fishy about that whole Grace Jones thing, to be honest with you. So I'm not worried about that. But I didn't hear about 2 peeping Toms on set. That's not a big deal. That's something they can deal with fairly. It's not a difficult problem to solve. But this Bond production has been, I mean, you got to say, Hardy Buck, this Bond production seems to be hit with the explosion on set, Daniel Craig having to go to the hospital, all that kind of stuff. It just seems to be one thing after another. These ones aren't big. They're not big things, but they are just adding on to what feels like almost like a little bit of a cursed production a little bit. We'll keep our eyes on it moving forward, though, Hardy. Let's see, where are we at? We are at Brian Esparza, who writes, add The Farewell to my top 3 of the year. Fantastic. This is one I gotta see. You know, it's funny. When I was at the Hobbs and Shaw premiere, I ran into Dennis, and you guys know Dennis comes over to my house all the time. We watch UFC fights, blah, blah, blah. But I ran into Dennis at the Hobbs and Shaw screening the other night, and we were just chatting. He goes, dude, I just saw The Farewell. Have you seen it yet? I'm like, no, but I'm hearing nothing but amazing things about it. And he said, it's in my top 2 movies of the year so far. And I'm hearing that from a bunch of people. So I'm just like, mine and Ann's schedules have been so crazy. It's been difficult to get out, but I got to get out and see this thing because everybody's talking about it. Everybody who's seen it is talking about it, and they're all putting it in their top 5 best movies of the year list. So I got to get around to seeing it. I got to get out and see this thing. Liam Donaghy writes, YouTube Snatch Wars, Vader dubbed with Snatch's Bricktop. You will lose yourself at how funny it is. The intercom moment, seriously couldn't breathe. Okay. I love Snatch. That sounds wrong, I know. But the movie, Snatch, with Jason Statham, directed by Guy Ritchie, one of my top 20 favorite films ever made. I love Snatch. Anyway, that sounds funny, Liam. So hold on a second. I'm just going to go Snatch Wars Vader. I'm just going to bring this up right now. Okay. I've got it all queued up. I'm going to watch this as soon as I'm done the show because that sounds awesome. Thank you for putting it on my radar, Liam. All right, next up, Lone Wolf X6 writes, John, did you like the Arrow finale final trailer more or the Flash Season 6 trailer? I preferred the Flash Season 6 trailer. The Arrow one was more of a best of kind of montage, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. And I'm going to watch the final season of Arrow. You know me, I'm love and hate. I've got a love and hate relationship with Arrow, but I'm going to watch the final season. But I really did quite enjoy that Season 6 trailer for Flash. I really did. Lone Wolf X6 also writes, John, I'm curious. Have you watched The 100? Never have. A few friends of mine recommended it and found it interesting. How about you? No, I've never had a chance to watch it, but like you, Lone Wolf, I've had a number of friends recommend it. Again, I don't have time for a lot of TV, but that is one that a lot of people have said and said good things about. So that's one that I think probably has to be on a lot of people's radars. Christian Borges writes, based on their MCU work, what would you say is the Russo brothers' overall filmmaking style and sensibilities? It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I mean, they do try to put a grounded element into a lot of the stuff they do. They definitely try to add in a serious grounded element to a lot of the stuff they do. And, you know, it's difficult to say just going off their MCU work, because I want to see their stuff outside of this. Because these are the same guys that did You, Me, and Dupree, right? Which is not so good and totally feels differently than anything they've done in the MCU. So here's the question. And I love the Russo brothers. Don't get me wrong. But I think a lot of people are going to be looking to see what movies they direct now coming out of the MCU and how those movies are. And I guarantee you, if they direct, say, 2 films and neither of them are very good, you're going to start hearing a lot of people, and I'm not saying I agree with this, okay? I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm just telling you, you're going to hear people start going, it was all Kevin Feige. Now, that's based on a huge if. If the next 2 films that they direct outside of the MCU don't turn out to be any good, that's a massive jump. That's a massive if. I'm just telling you that if that happens, right or wrong, you're going to start hearing a lot of people going, it was all Feige. They were, the You, Me, and Dupree guys is who they really are. All that other stuff was clearly just Feige because the movies they've done since sucked, which is unfair because all directors have a bad day at the office. Even Spielberg has a bad day at the office. And maybe the next film or 2 that the Russo brothers will be their bad day at the office. Who knows? But I'm just telling you, right or wrong, fair or unfair, if the next couple of films the Russo brothers do aren't good, you're going to hear the boo birds coming out going, oh, so Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, that was all really Kevin Feige. It was all really Kevin Feige. May not be fair. I'm just telling you, that's what you're going to hear people saying. We'll have to wait and see. Jeremy Sneed writes, and this is the final question of the day. Jeremy Sneed writes, I meant, why doesn't Netflix promote... why doesn't Netflix promote... I see what you're saying. Why doesn't Netflix promote the Red Sea diving resort? My bad, should have been clear. More about Netflix lack of promoting. Dude, you're preaching to the choir, Jeremy. You're preaching to the choir, brother. I've said for a long time, Rob and I talk on the show a lot, that Netflix is the worst when it comes to promoting their material. Like, I feel like at least 2 or 3 times a week, I got people asking me, hey, John, have you been watching this on Netflix? And I'm like, I never even heard of it. And I'm on Netflix a bunch, and I never heard of it. Like, they get these original series, this original programming, original movies, and a lot of stuff, and you guys will ask me, John, have you seen this on Netflix? I'm like, oh my God, guys, I've never even heard of it, and that's on Netflix. They're terrible at promoting their content. Terrible at it. Like, just the worst. And now at least I can say that I heard of the Red Sea Diving Resort and I've seen a trailer for it. There's a lot of Netflix content I can't say the same for. So Red Sea Diving Resort might be a little bit of an exception to that. But why aren't they promoting it more? Why aren't there billboards in Hollywood for it? Why? Who knows? Maybe they don't believe in it, or they just haven't got the slightest clue on how to promote their content. I mean, it's becoming a little bit laughable, to be honest with you. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show on this Friday. Congratulations again, guys, for making it through another entire week, and I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend planned ahead of yourselves, filled with fun, relaxing, enjoying the best of what life, family, and friends has to offer. May you be doing something exciting or something relaxing, whatever it is. I hope you enjoy yourself. Don't forget, guys, as this weekend, we will be doing open mics on Saturday and Sunday. Make sure you guys come back and join us for that. And then, of course, again on Monday, I'm going to be joined by Robert Meyer Burnett and Chris Carr as the John Campea Show returns on Monday morning. Make sure you guys come back and join us then. Guys, thank you all for being here and being part of the show and sending in great questions, being part of the conversation. I thank you very much, and I can't wait to see you guys again. That'll do it for me now, guys. My name is John Campea, and until the next show, bye-bye.